Hey guys, and welcome to another huge episode of Triggered. I hope you're all having a great Thursday. Today should be a fun one because we have Jesse Kelly back on the show. You won't want to miss this. Hilarious guy. We usually get really inappropriate, but a lot going on. Because today we are collectively going to dismantle pretty much everything the fake news left-wing narrative has been selling you. So guys, make sure you're liking, sharing, subscribing. Do it right now. Hit the like button. It's easy. Share, subscribe, send it to your friends so you never miss one of these major episodes and so they can actually get the real news. Remember, if you missed the show here on Rumble, go over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts. If your friends get their podcast that way, make sure they are aware. And for all of the top headlines that we cover on the show, go over to my news app, MXM News, where you can get the mainstream news without the mainstream bias. And of course, don't forget about our brave sponsors for having the guts to support this program. First, check out all the latest predictions on Polymarket. So if you follow politics, you know everyone's got an opinion. But on Polymarket, you actually get real odds on what's likely to happen. Polymarket is a prediction market where people trade on real events, elections, debates, policy moves, and it doesn't stop at politics. There are markets on the economies, tech, sports, pop culture, and so much more. It's all live, it's transparent, and it gives you a real-time indicator of what people really think is going to happen. So go give it a look at polymarket.com, check it out, and let me know what you think. Guys, before we get to Jesse, let's look at some of the top headlines of the week. And we begin in New York City, where Mayor Mamdani is openly taking the side of criminals. I know you're shocked. I know. You're shocked. He just visited a man in the hospital. The only problem is it's a criminal who charged at a Queens NYPD police officers with a kitchen knife and was then shot. But Mamdani? He's acting like the attacker is the real victim.
And as you said, I spoke with the Chakraborty family and I visited Chavez in the hospital. And there is no family should have to endure this kind of pain.
Baba, no!
Hey, put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife, move! Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down!
Now compare what you just heard to what the body cam footage of the attacks show. Check this out.
NYPD have just released this video. You can see it. It shows him walking with a knife towards the officers. You can see the knife right there. You can hear the officers call for him to drop the knife repeatedly. Put the knife down. And there are the several shots that are fired. The man's family, they are furious, saying in a statement that they're shocked and outraged by this. Mayor Mamdani has questioned the protocols that led up to the shooting. They say that he should not be prosecuted. Mamdani has visited him in the hospital. He remains in the hospital after undergoing several surgeries. We, of course, are going to continue.
The attacker is repeatedly told to drop the knife. He refuses. He then charges towards the officers. Officers repeatedly told him to drop it. They tried to isolate him behind a glass door. They did everything they possibly could to de-escalate, but the attacker opened the door and charged at the officers with the knife extended. And what does Mayor Mamdani do? He goes to the hospital, not to check on the officer that was wounded, but to sit with the attacker. And then he goes in front of the cameras and basically says that this man needs mental health treatment, not criminal prosecution. And guys, it gets worse. The Queens DA is reportedly considering an attempted murder charge, but Mamdani says they shouldn't prosecute him at all. The mayor also used the incident to push his agenda that police shouldn't be the first responders to mental health calls. First off, this isn't a mental health call, guys. This is a violent crime scene. Secondly, and maybe I'll ask you something, if someone is charging at you with a knife or was charging at your child or loved one with a knife, do you want a police officer there or a social worker with a clipboard? And what would you want the police officer do in that instant? But guys, this is your Democrat Party in 2026. They have chosen a side, and as usual, it's the side of the criminals. Just like they're on the side of criminal illegal aliens, and the side of narco traffickers, and on the side of pretty much anyone who is anti-Trump. This isn't an isolated incident, because also in New York City, a career criminal was just busted for allegedly raping a 14-year-old at an apartment complex. He had around 24 prior arrests. But Democrats in Albany put criminals over victims. You want to know why officers are leaving New York in droves? This is why. Why would you put your life on the line, your career, your pension, your mortgage, your family, when the mayor of your very city is going to visit the guy who tried to kill you and then demand that the DA let him walk? And it's not just New York, because out in Los Angeles, an explosive report in the LA Times reveals that Mayor Karen Bass secretly altered the official after-action reports on the Palisades fires that took out so many homes in Southern California. She personally directed that key findings about the Los Angeles Fire Department's failures be scrubbed or watered down before the public ever got to see it. Think about that for a second. 12 people died in that fire. More than 6,000 homes and structures were destroyed. An entire neighborhood wiped off the map. And Karen Bass was behind the scenes playing cover-up artist? Man, imagine that was a Republican. Bass saw an early draft of the report and went to then interim fire chief and told him the findings could expose the city to legal liability. I don't know. I watched it on TV, and it's pretty clear the city is exposed to legal liability. So what did she do? She had the damaging parts removed or softened. The stuff about the LAFD failing to pre-deploy crews to the Palisades before the fire, all of that got scrubbed. The conclusion that the department dropped the ball was totally watered down. And the guy who actually wrote the report refused to endorse the final version. He called the edited version highly unprofessional and inconsistent with established standards. Another shocker for you. Here's the kicker. For nearly 2 months, Bass repeatedly denied having anything to do with the changes. She lied. And remember, this is the same Karen Bass who was off in Ghana attending a presidential inauguration, not really sure why she needed to be there for that to begin with, let alone when the fires broke out. She'd been warned about severe fire danger. She left anyway. The fire hydrants didn't work. A crucial reservoir was empty. The department was more focused on DEI initiatives than on preparing for a catastrophe. They didn't tap into the Pacific Ocean that sat within yards of the Pacific Palisades. And then the after-action report that tried to document all of it, well, she buried it. And a year later, the city of Los Angeles still isn't able to deliver or even articulate a basic plan for rebuilding. But don't worry, guys. Over $20 million has been spent on consultants for the plan. Check this out.
Susan, this report is crucial for the rebuild, and now some are wondering what's taking so long. A highly anticipated rebuilding roadmap for fire-devastated Pacific Palisades now considered weeks overdue.
The report was due back in mid-November to the mayor's office, and now I don't know where it is.
In June, Mayor Bass announced the city had hired AECOM tasked with designing new infrastructure, stronger fire protection, and updated evacuation routes.
There's been a lot of work done.
But after months of public meetings like this, there's still no public report.
We're talking probably close to $20 million in consultant fees that's been paid.
This report is crucial.
Critical. But more than anything, what's critical is that we rebuild infrastructure properly.
Residents say they were told last week by city officials the documents are now sitting in the city attorney's office.
What's the document doing with the city's attorney's office? I can only question what could possibly require that much investigation.
With AECOM also a consultant for LADWP. You know, where can we trust anybody in this process?
The scariest part for me is right before this report was due, the leadership of AECOM quit.
They approved AECOM's contract.
In November, Councilwoman Tracy Park said the report would be released in about 30 days. It's now February, more than a year since the fire, and still no report or plans for city infrastructure.
6 months too late. This information should have been out there way earlier.
Fox 11 has repeatedly reached out to the mayor's office, city attorney, and AECOM with questions about the delay. So far, only Councilwoman Park has responded with a statement saying Palisades residents deserve answers. I've pressed every city department and outside partner to treat this with the urgency it demands.
Why would the head of AECOM quit? Something's missing here. Why is it stuck in the attorney's office? Something's missing here.
Gino is showing you live what the lights look like on this block and other blocks. It is dark, and this plan includes things about power lines, water, and roads, and without it, some residents feel like the rebuild truly can't begin here in Pacific Palisades. Reporting live tonight, Matthew Seedorf, Fox 11 News.
Well, now the Trump administration, the EPA, several Republican senators are on the ground in the Palisades. And here's more of what they're uncovering.
Here back in the Palisades alongside SBA Administrator Kelly Loeffler, leadership from FEMA. We met with LA County Supervisor Catherine Barger. That's the Altadena area where the Eden fires took place. Here in the Palisades, we met with LA Mayor Karen Bass and her team where the city has jurisdiction. We just need to break through whatever local log jams still exist. In Altadena, it was expressed concerns regarding the impacts of the state insurance regulatory scheme and the impact that that's had in getting payments out to people, as well as the local water systems, where they say they have many different water systems and it's not as efficient. There should be just one. Our meeting in the Palisades with LA Mayor Karen Bass, focusing on their issues. There are over 1,000 permits that have been kicked back to applicants. We want to dig deeper as to exactly why that's happening, to be able to get these permits out done quickly. Two Fridays ago, President Trump signed an executive order implementing Trump speed for this permitting process, directing FEMA and SBA to take actions to make that happen. SBA's already issued a new rule to implement that executive order, and we're going to do everything in our power. We're here in the spirit of cooperation to help these Americans who lost so much of their lives, to help them rebuild as quick as we can. And I would characterize both meetings that we had this morning as productive. The next stop, while we're here in Palisades, is now we're going to meet with a bunch of the victims and hear their story, their version of events, and see what we could do to further assist. But the Trump administration's been all in since the moment President Trump was sworn in, bringing the full resources, whole of government to bear to help with the debris removal and the SBA loans that went out. And we're still here. We will not stop until LA is fully rebuilt.
And while big city Democrat mayors are busy covering up fire reports and coddling criminals, House Democrats are fueling more worthless political theater on Capitol Hill. But they seem to have met their match with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. He's been on Capitol Hill this week absolutely schooling the Democrats. And the exchange with Maxine Waters, well, guys, it's must-see TV.
10 and 20 million immigrants.
Can you
look
shut
at the
him
housing stock of working Americans, and can you maintain some level of dignity?
Gentleman's time has expired.
What is the caliber of opposition we're dealing with? They can't debate on substance. They can't win on policy. So they resort to shouting, insults, and the usual theatrics. But that was just one of the highlights from Secretary of the Treasury this week. Here he is, completely triggering Democrat Congressman Stephen Lynch. Also worth a look.
Serious question and a serious issue for the financial services industry, especially as the Secretary of the Treasury.
Well,
that's an important. No, this is my time. I haven't asked you any more questions. I haven't asked you any more questions,
It's the gentleman from Massachusetts.
I'm trying to get to my next question.
Could you speak a little louder? I can't hear you.
Yeah, okay. I might.
Mr. Secretary, let Mr. Lynch proceed with his time. Put 4 seconds back on the clock, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Lynch.
I just want to do a comparison.
Now, Like I always say, Democrats are on the wrong side of every 80-20 issue there is. But they really don't seem to care at all. In fact, it's just the opposite. They're leaning into it. They're going all in. They're doubling, tripling, and quadrupling down. And they're even gearing up for impeachment, of course they are, if they take the House. Impeachment for what, you may be asking? Well, they don't really seem to know either. It's wild. I mean, we just throw it out there. It's no big deal. We'll do it. The media will cover for us. Well, here's my father being asked about it yesterday on NBC.
Do you think if the Democrats win in the midterms, at least one house of Congress, they're going to try to impeach you?
Well, I've done a great job as president. They say I've had the best first year of any president in history, and I think I have. If you look, I settled 8 wars, biggest tax cuts ever. Right now, we have more under construction with the factories, the car plant. They're all moving back into the country. They were stolen from us over a 40-year period. They're all coming back from Germany, from Canada, from Mexico, from Japan. I think I had the greatest first year that we've
But
had.
you think they may come after you again?
Well, they'll find something. Like I did an interview with you, and because I did the interview, let's impeach him or something.
Anything out there that Americans are going to be surprised about that you're going? Yeah,
I'll tell you, they shouldn't do it. And that's one of the things. I didn't do it for that reason, but it bothers me that somebody's going after Bill Clinton.
And by the way, for all the Democrats screaming about the Epstein files, have you noticed that they've had very little to say about their pandemic hero, Bill Gates? Well, now his ex-wife, Melinda, is speaking out. And let's just say she definitely knows something.
The emails in the files suggest that Bill Gates had additional affairs and that he tried to get medication to treat a sexually transmitted infection, and that he was going to give you the medicine without you knowing. His representative has said all of this is false. It is not on you to have to respond to the details of that alleged behavior, but I wonder what your dominant emotion is when you read these news articles with these details.
Sad. Just unbelievable sadness. Unbelievable sadness, right? And again, I'm able to take my own sadness and look at those young girls and say, my God, how did that happen to those girls, right? And so for me, it's just sadness for, I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage. I had to leave I felt I needed to eventually leave the foundation. So it's just sad. That's the truth, right? And it's kind of like, at least for me, I've been able to move on in life.
There's a famous quote from the late NFL coach Dennis Green. They are who we thought they were. And that pretty much sums up the Democrat Party. They are exactly who we thought they were. How do we know that? Because they've been telling us. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. Cover up, cash in, inflict chaos, choose criminals over citizens, and hope that no one's paying attention. But people are paying attention, and we need to keep paying attention. We can't get comfortable and we can't get complacent because the stakes are too high. Joining me now, author of the new book titled Little Red Book, nationally syndicated radio host and the host of I'm Right on The First TV, Jesse Kelly. Jesse, great to have you back. We were just talking about how you really kind of screwed up your anniversary present for your wife.
I don't know if it's as bad as anniversary present, Don. It's my wife's birthday.
Oh, birthday. Okay, sorry, birthday.
Our anniversary is this year, but well, I guess everyone has an anniversary this year. But her birthday's today.
That's sort of how anniversary works, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So her birthday's today, and I did the same thing. I mean, any sensible guy does. You try to find the lamest thing humanly possible, and that's something that a woman will generally like.
Yeah, like the antithesis of what you'd want to get if you were her. Like, do the opposite. Just short, like, it's like inverse Kramer, but like what you'd get for yourself. You know what I mean?
Exactly. As you pointed out, like if I had bought her guns or ammunition or something like that, that would have been bad. So what's the opposite of that? Well, she's one of these artistic people, she dances and does all that stuff. So I got her dancing lessons because she says dancing with me is like dancing with a grizzly bear. That's her exact
Well,
quote.
I mean,
It's
you are like
dance-
7 feet tall as well. So it's like, I mean, there's certain things you're going to be limited in, I think, in the level of coordination. And she's not short, but petite. It's got to be challenging.
It is. It is. See, that's it. It's all the height difference. Anyway, you should have seen the look on her face when she opened it up in the kitchen this morning, dog. She almost burst out laughing. I guess I failed it.
Well, we're in the same boat. As I mentioned, having been newly engaged, my fiance Bettina has seen me dance, and basically, other than the Trump, I got nothing else, and so she's making me do that because she refuses to be seen with me on a dance floor until I, tune this ass up a little bit. So, I may be in the same boat with you, and we're just embracing our metrosexual sides, Jesse. It's fine.
I guess we're getting soft in our old age.
Well, so now we can get to work. But first off, I know you just had to issue an apology because we're nearly a week into February. And you've been so busy promoting the book that I mentioned in the intro that you've barely covered Black History Months and civil rights icons such as Shaun King, a.k.a. Talcum X. What do you have to say for yourself? Will you issue the formal apology right here and right now?
I will. I actually feel terrible. I feel about that high knowing that these civil rights leaders of our time have not been properly honored by me in the month of February, like Shaun King. That's one of those stories that I feel like we breezed past because it was so hilarious. A very clearly white guy. I mean, I guess I don't know.
By the way, I was saying that. I'm looking at him like, I don't know, man. Like when he emerged from, whatever rock he crawled from under, I'm like, it's like, I mean, he tries really hard with the hair and stuff, but I was like, is that honestly, it's almost like an attempt at blackface, I guess, but I don't know if you're allowed to say that or not, but I'm pretty sure that's a white dude. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe this, but no, just a white dude.
Maybe we're not appreciating the full grift of it because we went from this, we have these periods of time in this country where obviously there was a time where Black people were segregated and treated terribly in the country. And then thankfully we moved past all that. But then we get into this dirty, commie, fake civil rights movement we have now where every Black person's oppressed and all this other crap. And so people got tired of that. But then along comes some white guy who close crops his hair and just tells everyone he's Black. And I got the feeling that no one was quite sure how they were supposed to deal with that.
But they had to just accept it. It's people went, the grift was real and it was probably pretty good for him for a while. And then what was the Rachel Doziel, I think. Doziel or whatever it was. That was another one. It was pretty sure, and the news comes to her parents' house to interview him. They open the door and it's like, wait, I think we have the wrong address. It's two just really, really just regular, just boring white people. And it was I don't understand. And yet those were the leaders of the movement, it seemed, for a while.
I think she deserves more respect than Shaun King does because in the very least, she took the time to curl her hair and she hit the tanning bed. That's what made her so great. She was tanning every single week.
If you're going to do it, you got to commit at least. He just tightened his haircut a little bit. It was
oh, gosh. Yeah, so happy Black History Month. I'm sorry I was busy promoting this book, which we're giving away, by the way, but I should have focused more on Black History
tell us a little bit about the book. I'm sure we'll get into it more, but as the audience can see, when Jesse and I get together, it's me on his show or whatever, we usually get ourselves into trouble, so it's fine.
It's fine. Yeah. No, I wrote a little booklet. I'm not selling it or anything like that. I'm not trying to sell anything. We're just emailing it to people. It was a little, Mao did his little red book, which rallied a whole bunch of young commie savages during the Cultural Revolution, and they were all waving around their little red books. It was just short and easily consumable. I don't want anybody to hurt anyone on behalf of my book, please. It's just some thoughts on communism and Democrats and Republicans and where we are in the country. It's just 93 pages. And like I said, it's free. JesseKelly.com. Just go put in your email address and we'll just send it to you for free. There's no gimmick. There's no scam. I'm not trying to send you a newsletter every week. It's something I wanted people to have. That's all.
That's cool. That's cool. That doesn't happen that often these days. So, I like that. But, in my opening, I talked a little bit about the New York mayor openly siding with a man who charged at cops with a knife. But to him, the mayor, the attacker is actually the real victim. I mean, I believe the cop was literally stabbed, then he fought back. But the mayor goes to visit the attacker, not the cop that was injured. I mean, why are the communists so eager to side with criminals? I mean, it's every time. It's not like, it's almost like I read it, I'm like, wow, that's disgusting, but not even a little bit surprising anymore.
Well, I mean, I'm sure your audience already knows this goes clear back to the Soviet Union. When the Bolsheviks were having their revolution in the Soviet Union, they went down to the prison and they opened up all the prison doors. They knew exactly where the political prisoners were, but they didn't stop there. Rapists, you're out. Murderers, you're out. Thieves, you're out. They let them all out. And then, tell me if anybody thinks this sounds familiar at all. After letting them all out, once they took power, they then installed judges in their country who ensured that the rapist was allowed to rape and the thief was allowed to do his thievery. They ensured the judges would protect the criminals and prosecute anyone who stopped them. It's a way to divide society and create angst and fear in people. It is as old as the communist revolution in the Soviet Union, and they have never changed. It's the same playbook. Scumbags in society, whoever they may be, violent criminals, are always used as foot soldiers in the communist revolution until they achieve total power, and then they're all taken out and shot. That's how it always works. But for now, in the revolutionary phase, these people have a commitment to let them out, but they always have to find a new excuse. Now it's usually sold as racial justice or whatever stupid crap they come up with on any given day. But that's why they do it. Normal people really have a hard time understanding how truly evil these people are. They want rapists to rape. I
talk about this stuff all the day, and like, I get it, I see it, I understand the history, and yet it's still like, I don't get it. Like, why? Even if the elites, maybe they think they're immune from it and their children won't be raped by these same people in time, or maybe they will and they're just okay with that. Like, I can't imagine as a father of 5 kids, like, just accepting, like, those are the toils of war, so to speak. It's like, we just, we got to win at that cost. It's mind-blowing to me.
Don, some of these people are the ones who think they won't be touched, and then some are so insanely brainwashed that, I'll tell you what, this is a real conversation I had. I've told people this story before. It was a couple years ago. I was on vacation with my wife, and we ended up at a big table, one of those big group tables where everyone's from everywhere. And, there's an oil guy from Texas, because, of course, Texas guy's going to be an oil guy. And there's this young communist woman from Chicago. And this is right after Brandon Johnson had gotten elected. And, of course, the animals were running all over the streets. She kept referring to him as BJ, as if they were best friends. Kid you not. And then I'm keeping my mouth shut. I know no one believes that, but I'm keeping my mouth shut. I'm sitting there having a cocktail. I want to be left alone. Texas oil guy's having none of it. He's about 10 whiskey sours deep, and he doesn't want to hear about BJ and anything else. So he starts in on this girl. And he starts talking about, well, aren't you worried about the crime? I mean, I can show you. He's pulling out his phone. I can show you the crime. Aren't you worried about the crime? And on my life, Don, this is verbatim. She looks at him and she says, well, if you come to Chicago, yeah, you might get robbed, but you're not going to be targeted. And for her, that like sealed the argument.
Yeah, I won.
Yes. yes. I mean, yes, they may stick a gun in your face and beat your wife and steal your wallet, but it's not going to be specifically about you. Why are you making a big deal of the whole thing? But she was stone-faced, dead serious, and thought she was right. That woman could be mugged tonight, Don, and she would go vote for BJ again tomorrow without question.
You saw that in New York, wasn't one of these, radical leftist activists? I think her boyfriend was literally killed in the streets of New York last year, and she's like, well, we got to understand where the murder came from. I'm like, wait, this is like maybe someone you were going to spend the rest of your life with. Like, those dreams are dashed. His life is gone, and it's like, I mean, I understand where the guy's coming from, I guess. Like, the guy didn't do anything to provoke it. It wasn't like it was a fight that just went wrong. Like, he just got killed in the streets. And it was like they sympathize with those who are literally killing them. And this wasn't, a political thing. They're both left-wing activists. And it was like, well, it's still okay. I mean, I've never seen a group of people where they're literally just, voting for civilizational, termination, which is seemingly what they're doing.
It is a religious belief. I mean, people call it a cult, and that is probably very fair to call it a cult or whatever, but it is a religious belief system. And you see that and how quickly it supersedes everything. Your boyfriend, your fiance, your mother, your child. And in communist systems, famously, children will turn in their parents. Husbands will turn in their wives. Moms will turn in their children. My mom would fight 1 million people to save me. But in a communist system, no, come get my son. I heard him speaking out against the state. It is a religion that supersedes everything else in these people's lives. And I watched the video of that incident you're talking about. You can actually go look at it. Not that I would encourage kids to do so, but it's hard to watch. And it's not like I'm a fan of either of those people, but there's some dude walking with his lady on the sidewalk, and there's some clearly violent monster there. And he's trying to reason with him, Don. Hey, man, it's all cool. And he ends up laying there bleeding out on the sidewalk. And you're watching all this. And then the aftermath is his girlfriend covering for the killer. And you're just thinking, good God, these people are so mentally broken. It's hard to share a country with them.
Yeah, I mean, listen, guys like you, me, we talk about this stuff a lot. You never see it from the mainstream. Why do they continue to perpetuate that? Again, hey, I know we don't agree a lot on politically, with those guys and stuff like that, but I don't consider them to be totally insane like I do, the radicals that are actually, organizing these mass protests, very organized, attacks in Minnesota, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, and yet it still gets no coverage. I guess it's just they're all in no matter what, and as long as it's not happening to them, they're still okay with it too. I mean, are there levels of the degeneracy?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things when it comes to the media. For one, a lot of these violent criminals that we see, that we have video of, things like that, a lot of them are people who are not white. And so the American media has dedicated itself to restorative justice and all this other ridiculous crap they talk about. No black person, no illegal, nothing like that can ever be presented in any kind of a bad light at all. If there's some black gangbanger who guns down 15 people at prom, the picture, if you have to cover the story, you have to put his picture up and have him be at graduation hugging his grandma. At all times, you have to present white people in the worst possible light and anyone who's not white in the best possible light. So there's part of that too. And then there's another part of this where, speaking of death cults, like the Aztecs, this is something that most people know now. The Aztecs were just complete barbarians, and they used to skin people all the time, and they did human sacrifice. It was a big, big deal. They'd drag you on top of the temple, pull your fingernails out so you start crying, lay you down while you're still alive, and cut your heart out with an obsidian knife. It's really some of the most horrible stuff in the world. Well, people think the priests who did that, they're up there with all their ceremonial stuff, that they were actually in charge. And in a way they were. But in a society like that, where it's ingrained, the priest does not have the freedom to stand on top of the temple and say, guys, you know what? I decided today, this is evil. This is wrong. This whole false demonic religion is false. We're not doing this anymore. If the priest did that, he would probably be ripped to shreds by all the people who believe in it. The American media, and in so many ways the Democrat politicians, even if they are sane people on the inside, their base is so ravenous now, so monstrous now, they don't have the freedom to voice that, even if you want to.
By the way, using that example, the media, academics talk about, the great virtues of the Aztec culture today that, obviously, listen, I'm not saying the Spaniards were exactly nice when they came over there, but like that was the culture we got to preserve. That was, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it was the greatest culture in the world to preserve. I mean,
well, of course, you have to present. This is another thing they do all the time. And by the way, I say this, when we played Cowboys and Indians as a kid, I was the Indian. Like, I love the Cherokee. I was always a big fan of the Sioux. Like, I'm the Indian fan. But we always have to present any indigenous peoples who were less technologically advanced. They always have to be presented in our society as these saintly peace lovers who they didn't even believe in land ownership, which is the most hilarious thing in the history of the world. They slaughtered each other en masse for land ownership, but that's another story entirely. And any more modern society that came over and conquered them always has to be presented in the most terrible light possible. Maybe none of them were saints. Maybe conquest is the nature of humanity itself. But in our weird leftist America-hating, civilization-hating circles with academia and the media in this country, only prosperity has to be demonized. Only everyone else has to be celebrated. It's a weird upside-down world we live in.
Conquest is the nature of nature. Look at a pride of lions. Look at any apex predator. I mean, it's sort of how it is, and yet we don't demonize them.
Yeah, it's It's funny you brought up a pride of lions because it's one of the most barbaric things for people who don't understand how nature works. When there is a pride of lions, the males will fight to see who gets to lead the pride. And oftentimes the losing male will die. If he doesn't die, he will be outcast. And by the way, his children will be massacred almost every time by the new male who takes over the pride. Now, when normal people, when they hear that, they think that's the most horrible, awful thing in the world. And obviously it is awful. I don't celebrate watching a lion cub be mauled to death. However, do you know who benefits from that situation? The pride itself. The end result of that is the strongest male will be able to lead and protect the pride because of that system. It's an awful system. I really don't want us to eat our cubs, by the way. But you can see the same kind of thing works in conquest. All ground has been conquered, and it is for the good of all humanity that more powerful societies will conquer less powerful societies. Not in every case, of course, but in general, from a 30,000-foot view, it's better for everyone that modern societies, for instance, conquered America. That helped the entire world, still helps it to this day.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about some of those alignments, whether it's, the left with insanity or, I see sort of the radical LGBTQIA, mostly the trans movement, aligning themselves a lot right now with radical Islam. And I'm like, I don't know. Doesn't seem like you guys, in another country, doesn't seem like you guys would get along that well. And I know that based on the video evidence of them throwing your people off of buildings for, being homosexual, let alone, taking it to the, Google number of letters afterwards, in that movement. And it doesn't make any sense. But I guess the one thing that they have aligned is they want to destroy Western civilization. And once they do that, then they'll fight it out for themselves and see who has the power at that point. I imagine it doesn't work too well for the LGBTQIA plus.
Yeah, I would imagine. And see, in those societies, they don't chop your penis off; they chop your head off for all that. But the red versus green alliance thing's been written about. Someone, name escapes me, I'm sorry. Someone wrote a book, The Red-Green Alliance, which was fascinating. But this is another one of those things that confuses normal people when they look at things like that. You have your pink feather boas and your rainbow there, and then you have this strict Islamist society where freaking women aren't even allowed to go to school. Just treat them like cattle. It's like the worst thing in the history of the world. And you wonder, how can those two groups, how can they join with each other? Well, the enemy of my enemy is oftentimes my friend throughout history. They share a common enemy. It's why Democrats always align with countries like Iran and places like that. But what do we have in common with Iran? Well, they share a common enemy, the United States of America. Same thing with the tranny nonsense in the Islamic societies. How could they unite? You'd be killed there. Well, they're all just trying to burn down Western society. They all want to burn down your church. Mm-hmm. They all want to destroy the family. They all want to destroy the mental health of your kids and capitalism in America. And look, they'll sort out who gets to sit on the throne in the end, but that's a long ways away. They got a revolution to fight first.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the insanity in New York, but we're seeing the same thing in LA where the mayor covered up the fire report. This is the same mayor who had a long history of activism with the Castro regime in Cuba. These are the thought leaders of the Democrat Party. How did it get to that point? Again, I've sort of said, hey, maybe you need a Mamdani to just, let New York City crumble. That's not good for, the city that my family helped build and change the skyline of. And yet, maybe you like addiction, maybe you have to hit rock bottom first to come back out of it. But when you got New York, Chicago, LA, all these major cities trying this experiment at one time, it's like, do you get to a point where the failure is insurmountable and you just, end up in a dystopian nightmare?
It's so sad to me, too. We just went to New York City for Christmas. My wife and I have always adored the city so much. And we did it in part, Don, because we thought this is probably our last time. This guy's going to finish this place off. And it looks like he's well underway to doing that. And that saddens me for our greatest city. But that aside, I mean, people ask, how did this happen? How did this happen? The Nazis are actually a great example of this. As much as the communists love to use them as an example, I'm going to use them. When the Nazis were first pushing through the beer halls and stuff like that, they were a group of street thugs. Whatever. Okay, they got some kooky ideas. They're just street thugs. But then eventually they get some power, but it wasn't that much power. They were 2% of parliament. 2%. I mean, that's a teeny tiny minority. Yeah. But you know what the Nazis were is they were committed. Evil and wrong and all those things, they were committed. They wanted more. They were willing to do whatever to get more. How did these communist monsters like Karen Bass take over the Democrat Party? Well, while moderates just wanted to country club the whole thing and party in the Hamptons, the communists were working in the streets. The communists were recruiting billionaires to fund them. And now we have the mayor of our second biggest city, Los Angeles. As you mentioned, she flew to Cuba multiple times for communist training. For anybody who thinks Don is crazy for calling them communists or me are crazy, they've had Marxist training, actual professional training. They admit it. They're out in the open. It's what they are. And they were always more committed. I mean, why is AOC a congresswoman from the Bronx? Well, she took out a long established, fairly moderate, but not that moderate Democrat. She was committed. The Justice Democrats, some radical commie group, backed her with funding. The Democrat Party base now will generally vote for the furthest left candidate. And now look, they're fighting a revolution inside their party, and they basically lost it already. It's bad because we need them to stop, but who's going to stop them?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's also ironic that we now have, actually, I've watched over the weekend on, Truth and X and all these things, like you have white liberals attacking black ICE agents and even using pretty significant racial slurs against them. We've played the video before, but so as it turns out, the anti-racists actually are just racist, which is always the case. Just like the anti-fascists were actually fascist, based on literally the entire playbook that they ran over the last few years.
Yeah, there's a guy, he was a German communist, and I'm going to screw up his name, Don, but you know I'm stupid. I went to community college. I call it Herbert Mercuse, but I think it's Mercuse, whatever. I don't care about his stupid name. But he wrote something that I think would help people understand a lot of what that kind of stuff, the hypocrisy we see now. He wrote something and he talked about what was known as liberating tolerance. Because you'll see today, these people, they're screaming the N-word at a freaking black dude. And people, but wow, you look so tolerant. Oh, this is tolerant. Well, liberating tolerance, the idea behind it was you tolerate everything from the left. If it is from the left, you will tolerate everything. And you have complete intolerance for anything from the right. You still call it tolerance. You simply call it liberating tolerance. So for everybody watching, listening right now who doesn't understand, how could you say that and not see that you're not the tolerant one? How could you have your coexist bumper sticker yet scream about how Jesus was the devil or something like that? How could you do that? Everything from the left is permissible in service of the revolution.
It's democratic socialism, Jesse.
Exactly.
It's socialism, but it's democratic socialism. It's different this time.
It's different.
Narrator, it's not different. It's never different.
It's never different. But that's how these people think. And they think they're the good guys when they do it. That person didn't lose a minute of sleep or feel the least bit bad about running home that night calling a black dude the N-word. These nurses talking about poisoning our ICE officers. They don't feel like they're the bad guy. Teachers telling your son to chop his penis off. They don't feel like they're the bad guy. They feel like they're fighting for the righteous revolution. And they fight that way like everything is at stake because for them it is.
Yeah, no, it's scary. I mean, you mentioned like the nurses basically refusing to, give anesthesia to, conservative or MAGA, victims at a hospital. I can only imagine what my chances are if I end up having to go to the hospital for some reason in the not too distant future. I mean, it's sick. I mean, they're not only breaking the Hippocratic oath that they all took, to do, no harm, but they're actually encouraging and justifying the behavior. And they're shocked that there's actually some consequences when they get caught occasionally.
That's what blows me away, Don. It's not just that they're doing it. These people record it. Yeah. Sit down.
I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, they record it and upload it. And then they get fired. That one nurse, where was she, Don? VCU, I think? VCU, the nurse who got fired, thank God, from VCU. That was 3 different videos. It's not like she had a couple too many mimosas one night and decided to put some drunken video up on there. 3 separate occasions she outlined her plans and your plans, what they should be, to poison ICE officers. And this is somebody with a career. I mean, a nurse is a very good career. I don't know exactly what they were making at VCU, but that's a very good life. It's good living. And you just screwed up your whole life on TikTok? I don't know. I'm getting.
Well, I mean, the left's new, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one, because the left new talking point is that you can't have immigration enforcement because we're all on stolen land anyway. But if that's the case, why are all these celebrities spending millions on gated mansions? They're paying that much for stolen goods? I mean, that seems criminal in and of itself.
Yeah, well, they look, these people, in the end, they just want to burn down the country. Whatever will burn down the country, but none of them feel like they should be part of this whole thing. In East Germany, they had that place. I won't even attempt to pronounce it because it was in German and it's a long name, but they had this community because in East Germany, you didn't have anything. Your life sucked if you were a citizen. I mean, they didn't have televisions, the cars sucked, everything sucked. It was just commie run and everything sucked like it always does. But not the elite members of the Communist Party. They built for themselves what essentially an entire town out in the forest. It had a movie theater. They had restaurants. If you were to drive through it, at least back then, you would have thought you were in any kind of suburban neighborhood in America today. Very, very nice. They weren't going to live that way. No. That's what all you peasants
do as
have
I
to
say,
live
not as
like.
I do.
Yeah, they see themselves as kings and queens. I say this all the time. They really do. That they're going to rule. Of course, they have to put these policies into place, and you have to suffer. But I'm not going to suffer. I have bodyguards. Oh, did your mom get raped? That's too bad. I was perfectly safe, and so were my sons, Aiden, Jaden, and Braden. They go to a $40,000 a year private school with professional security. Sorry, your kid has to go through a metal detector on his way to school. That sounds like a personal problem, though. That's how they think.
Yeah, well, I mean, more broadly, really, it seems like the Democrats just seem to be on the wrong side of every 80-20 issue that's out there. And, you know, there didn't used to be that many 80-20 issues. Now there's a lot of them, and yet they can't even help themselves. They act as though, you know, again, secure borders, voter ID, election integrity are literally existential threats to their political power. Why is that? Other than, I guess, because they are.
Yeah, well, I think you nailed it. They are. I believe, and obviously I can't prove this, Don, but really my proof is going to come mainly in the polls, like you just talked about. 80-20 issue, 80-20 issue, 80-20 issue. They're on the wrong side of that. Now, in a representative republic, that should be the end of a political party. And every Democrat, top to bottom, has those stances because they don't tolerate anything else. So every Democrat, federal, state, local, has those stances, and you're on the wrong side of an 80-20 issue. That should mean the extinction of the Democrat Party. Instead, 50-50 country. We'll probably lose a house in the midterms. That's just the way that kind of goes sometimes. How is that humanly possible? The Democrat Party would be a 20% party, and it would cease to exist. They would eliminate the party and come up with a new one if it wasn't for fraud, foreigners, and cheating in elections. When it comes to fraud, you see it in Minneapolis right now, but it's all over the country. Maine, California will be even worse. Democrats thrive on stealing taxpayer money and paying their constituents with that money. That's what they thrive on. Their constituents will vote en masse. In Minneapolis, you go to the apartment complex run by Somalis. You make sure they're all allowed to do their fraud. They will, in turn, all fill out a ballot for every single Democrat every election. Tim Walz is governor in Minnesota by, I believe, 138,000 votes. There's 100,000 Somalis in the state of Minnesota. You take away that open bribery for it, and they're gone like that. We just had that Somali in Maine. He stood up in front of the city council when some Somali, I believe it was a councilwoman, maybe a state rep, got busted, of course, fraud, surprise, surprise. And the Somali gets up there, broken English, but very, very clearly just threatens everyone. We elected you to protect us. If you continue prosecuting this other Somali lady, we are going to reconsider our support for the Democrat Party. It's a transactional affair. We will steal, we will give it to you, you vote for us. When it comes to foreigners, the Democrat Party is gone without foreigners. Yeah. I know the Democrat domestic coalition doesn't want to acknowledge this, but every part of it, from the LGBTQ to the fake civil rights stuff to the feminist to everything else, they've all been left behind. They just don't know it yet. There is a cheaper date in town, and that's the foreigner. He can be bought with a $500 Visa card in a rent-controlled apartment somewhere funded by the American taxpayer. He doesn't make any demands. He doesn't ask for better schools. He wants to be able to come here from whatever third world dump he came from and luxuriate on the taxpayer dime. And then, of course, election cheating. Why'd they raise such a stink when the FBI just raided Fulton County, Georgia? Why is that such a big deal if everything's on the up and up? Why are you boarding up windows on election night if everything's on the up and up? If it wasn't for cheating in elections and fraud and foreigners, the Democrat Party would cease to exist. It's not 50%. It's not 40%. It's not even 30%. It's a 20% party.
Yeah, and it's not just buying the votes. It's the money that they then send abroad that then gets sent back to, you know, Democrat super PACs. I mean, we saw all the scams around USAID, but then you see, you know, the Somali Minnesota one being, hey, they're sending it to Al-Shabaab, a terror group, and then whatever's left over in the remittances gets sent back to, you know, Democrat super PACs. And I think we've had this conversation before. It's like, you know, in red states even, Yeah, how is it that the Democrat candidate who's losing by 30 points is still able to raise 5 times more money than the Republican candidate or even Republican incumbents in there? And I'm like, I don't get it, man. That isn't just all Soros money and money coming out of New York and the LA bubbles and everything like that. Like, it's got to be more than that. And of course, this is it, which is why they're so against looking into any of the fraud. And I imagine if they have, the tune of 9 to 20 billion, I've heard, in Minnesota, imagine the level of money that's being stolen in California with, 30 times the population and probably even less, shockingly, less accountability and governance.
Yeah, I've told people that you think Minnesota is bad. If we actually are able to dig in and expose California, which is a big if because it's such a powerful state and they're going to try to stop the feds at any chance. But if they can, it's going to make Minnesota look like the appetizer. Minnesota is the mozzarella sticks. California is going to be the main course where the American taxpayers' eyes are going to be popping out of their head every freaking day when you find out just how much thievery has gone on in this country. And that's what they all are in the end, isn't it, Don? They're all just dirty thieves. They're a bunch of dirty thieves. The elected officials work hand in hand with the Democrats and the justice system, who work with the fraudsters and the foreigners. And it's all in an effort to steal from the richest person on the planet, and that's the American taxpayer. The American taxpayer, the American Treasury, the California Treasury, the Minnesota Treasury, it's got more money than George Soros ever hoped or dreamt of. And that what they do is all in a goal to get access to that big bank vault and steal large quantities of your money. And let's be honest, if you have nothing moral against it, why wouldn't you? And none of these people have anything moral against it. It's all about money and power. I mean, look, she's obviously blasted a lot by me, by you, by everybody. But Ilhan Omar, you escaped this dump called Somalia. Your father was a war criminal. You get to the United States of America, dedicate every waking moment to taking a steaming dump on this country. You then get elected, and all of a sudden you're worth $30 million. What skills does Ilhan Omar have, Don? You've been around wealthy people your entire life. What skills does she have that would allow her to acquire $30 million on such a short notice? I'm all ears.
I imagine none, but I do know the statistics. I think we've all talked about them and read about it. The average IQ in Somalia was 67? You're not allowed to say that. 70 used to be the baseline for what would be called, let's call it mentally handicapped. They had to lower that number so as not to offend people that were here. But if that's the case, and it seems that science backs that up, do we really believe that people with a 67 IQ were able to steal $10 billion without help from above, without help from people perhaps a little bit smarter than that? I just don't believe that because it's not believable.
No, it's not believable. All you needed were willing people to steal. And in so many of these third world countries, it's not just Somalia. So many of these third world countries, Americans don't get this because thankfully we live in a different culture. You steal everything. That's what you do. It's not even something that bad people do. Everyone steals. Everyone steals. I was talking to a friend of mine about what it was like in the Soviet Union, and everyone just stole everything. If you were a mother and you had to do back to school shopping, you went to the black market that was oftentimes run by the Russian mafia. That's the only place you could get notebooks and backpacks for little Vladi and whoever else you were raising at that point in time. If you got a speeding ticket, you didn't pay off the speeding ticket. You found the right person to bribe and you bribed them, and then the speeding ticket went away. And these weren't, evil, dastardly criminals with teardrop tattoos on their face. That's the culture. That was how culture functioned. We import people from cultures like this, and then Democrats who imported them will help them scale up, if you will, on their theft. And it's all happening while the American taxpayer is suffering still from inflation. He can't afford a house. And he wakes up every single day and he picks up his phone and finds out that a bunch of dirty thieves are swindling him. It's easy to understand the outrage.
Yeah, speaking of outrage, we're just days away from the Super Bowl, Jesse, and a new report exposes how Bad Bunny's record label actually has deep ties to the Venezuelan communist dictatorship, going all the way back to Chavez. And this is the guy the NFL thinks will unify sports fans. That's what the guy in a dress. I don't know. I don't watch all that much sports because I'd rather be outside doing something on the weekends. But it doesn't seem like they even care. It doesn't seem like that represents their fans at all. What's the baseline for that? Especially after the outrage over the insanity that they've pulled over the last few years. It's like they've never learned and they just don't seem to care.
It's the sports extension of globalist garbage. I mean, NBA, switching sports, people don't realize how big the NBA was when you and I were kids. The NBA was what the NFL is now. Everybody, sports fan or not, everyone knew Michael Jordan. Everyone watched. It was a big deal. Now, who do you know watches the NBA? I don't know anybody watches the NBA. Why? Everything they do alienates their fans. Why? They were focusing on international markets now. They're not worried about America's youth. They've left them behind. They want to be a global brand instead of an American brand. They left them behind. Why does the NFL have Bad Bunny roll out there at the Super Bowl halftime show? What they're banking on is that the American viewer will never turn off the game. And frankly, the NFL's been proven right about that time and time again. They're going for this international audience. They're playing games all over the world. France, I believe I saw they're playing a game in France. I know they've been playing games in London. The NFL doesn't want to be an American sport. It wants to be a global sport. And if that means thumbing their nose at Americans, they'll do so. And those Americans, if you don't turn off the halftime show, remember, everyone watching, they know minute by minute whether or not you're watching. You don't have to just turn off the game. You can turn off the halftime show. But either way, if you don't turn off the halftime show, the NFL says, look at these chumps. They're never going to turn off the game. Puerto Rico still, now we have more viewers there. It's a win for them.
Yeah, I mean, I know Turning Point's doing something to counter program, the Super Bowl halftime show. I recommend everyone watch that just to, again, I think these people do, in the end, they will, start voting with their wallets and probably take it accordingly. But we actually have to make them feel, some of that financial pain, so to speak.
We do. I love that we are, I should clarify that we are getting more aggressive and we are getting better about that. For so much of my life, the normal standard response on the right was you'd have people brag, well, I don't do boycotts. I don't do that. Well, what you're saying is I don't allow my money to follow my morals. Well, the communists do. And in corporate America, they understood that for the longest time when the corporate boardroom sat down and they had to figure out how to spend their $50 million advertising budget. They only had to consider one side because you had one side with this stupid chump mentality of, I don't do boycotts. And then the other side that says, we'll picket you in the streets and we'll never buy anything from you again. Well, there's only one side you have to appeal to. You don't have to worry about the chumps. We're getting better about that. But we have to be even better because these people you're not going to talk them into it. They have to be whipped back into line. All they understand is fear and pain. And there's no better fear and pain than the bottom line. Company after company is now feeling that when they step out of line. And that's a good thing. It's a very good thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, it literally feels like we're living a South Park episode come to life. Like every day I wake up, it's like, I feel like I'm being punked. Like, I'm in the Truman Show. Like they're filming it because it's like, it's got to be good TV because it's like, how can this be real? And yet it's happening. I mean, I feel like, the Trump administration takes out narco traffickers. And if you watch The View or MSDNC, you'd think that narco traffickers are actually the good guys. Like they should be protected at all costs, not the 100,000 Americans killed by fentanyl from said narco traffickers. I mean, we can't do anything for them. The cognitive dissonance is sort of just off the charts.
And the shamelessness. I'm somebody, my wife says I lack shame. She said that helps me in my career, but I think I pale in comparison to some of these people, Don. Who's that dork senator, Chris Van Hollen, that one from Maryland? Your dad, thankfully, deports a human trafficker. Do people understand how horrible human trafficking is? It's the slave trade. We all learn about slavery, it's the slave trade. And it's just the stories. Anyway, he was a human trafficker. He got deported. And the United States Senator from Maryland flew down and had a margarita with him on camera. It's not even believable. Sometimes, like you said, it's like it's a South Park episode, but there is no bottom for these people. I mean, I realize there is for Cory Booker, but for some of these people, there's no bottom at all. They're plumbing the depths at all times, and they've never found it.
Well, speaking of bottoms, you had a great tweet about it, but Kamala Harris announced an announcement today, although no one's really sure what she's announcing or why. Does Kamala's future in politics look like anything real? And then, we saw the stats. She's leading, the 28 polls. And you saw your tweet was about Pete Buttigieg and Cory Booker. You had an interesting one. Probably pull it up here and give you the exact quote, but let's see, what was it? Don't sleep on Booker and Buttigieg. Either of them could sneak up from the bottom. Like, what are you saying there, Jesse? I don't think I understand. I may have missed it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Ron. I was just saying.
I was hacked.
Look, I need to clarify my statements for anybody who was offended. What I was saying was either of those guys. I mean, it could be either of them. They could come from behind. You have no idea what they might end up doing in the presidential election. No, it is actually funny in all seriousness that both of them in preparation for 2028 are already making plans. Cory Booker already went out and found a excuse me, sorry, I must have something in my throat. Found a wife for the election season. That is good, by the way. I need to shave my beard. I don't know why I just thought about that. Anyway, Buttigieg still polls at 0% in the black community. And that actually brings me back to my favorite moment in the history of politics, by far. By far. Now, I should clarify. Sorry to filibuster for a second, Don. But Democrats pandering to black people has always been my favorite thing in politics because it is so obvious. It is so shameless. They do it all the time, whether it's Hillary Clinton talking about the hot sauce in her purse. Gavin Newsom just recently went on an NBA podcast and told them about eating Wonder Bread and hustling while he played b-ball. I'm not even kidding. People can look that up. That's an actual quote. I mean, it's all great. But Buttigieg had the best one ever. Because he's gay and because that doesn't fly in the black community, he's never polled well in the black community. We just be honest about this. So he did, I believe it was Showtime. Don't quote me on that. It might have been HBO, but I'm pretty sure it was Showtime. He did some infomercial trying to boost his numbers in the black community. And people can look it up. It's on video. Pete Buttigieg got with a couple black dudes and drank a 40 out of a brown paper bag. It's one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. I think I watched it 50 times that day, annoying my wife, saying, no, you don't understand how funny this is. And I just kept showing her.
Yes, 48 of the 50 times. Yes, I saw it, Jesse. Well, it was like Elizabeth Warren doing like, I think I'm going to go have a beer now to be with the regular folks. And I'm like, I don't know. Just own who you are. It's fine. I mean, yeah. Well,
just I'm gonna get me a beer. She says, "Oh gosh, it kills me, man." Like you said, you're better off owning it. In all honesty, it's what your dad does really, really well. He just owns it. You know exactly who he is. Yeah, it's gonna make you mad sometimes. You can love it sometimes, but he's never lying. That's exactly who he is, and that's exactly who he is. People can sniff that, especially now when everything's on social media and people know a phony when they see one. And yet these politicians, even all these consultants around them, all these millions of dollars, they can't seem to get it through their head. Just own it. Yeah. Look, if you're Elizabeth Warren and you sip a Chardonnay or Firewater or whatever it is, just own it and tell people about it.
Yeah, I mean, authenticity is everything in politics, and it seems totally lacking. I saw that Kamala announced her new, Kamala HQ. 6'7". Do you see that one? Like a reference to I think anyone making 6'7" jokes, like my 11-year-old does it all the time. Anytime those numbers come up and it's like 6'7", 6'7", I'm like, what does it mean? And I'm like, I don't even know. And by the way, they don't even know. But that was her outreach to young people. It's like, I don't know. There's times where for her, especially during the last election, I was like, I think their speechwriter is closet MAGA because there's no, they have to be trolling. And yet, They think it's totally organic and very natural.
So I was thinking about this, Don, and I don't claim to be the expert on all things, but on presidential politics, what is historically the greatest disparity of personality between presidential candidates? JFK, Nixon comes to mind, your dad, Hillary Clinton, sadly, Bill Clinton, George H.W. I mean, these things come to mind as one candidate very clearly had the charm, had the thing, and the other one just
didn't. Romney, Obama. I may not agree with a lot of Obama, but in terms of charm, it's not, Romney couldn't be a regular guy, wasn't incapable of that, and wouldn't embrace his success. So he was just sort of in this no man's land of well, who are you? And no one knows.
100%. If 2028 is Kamala Harris, who I referred to as Dome, versus J.D. Vance, and it looks like, according to the poll numbers, that could be it. I know it's early. If that's it, is that the greatest disparity of personality in the history of presidential politics? J.D. is just a real dude. I mean, you know exactly who he is. And everything about Dome is fake. Every single thing about her is fake. It's always been fake. She's been fake for so long. I think she's 60 now. There is nothing real. You could tell her all day long to be real. The real left a long time ago. There's no real thing in there at all. Personality-wise, that's going to be a lopsided one.
So, Jesse, how does all of this tie back into your new book? And again, you're giving it away for free. So, where can people get it? Why should they want to look at it? Tell us.
It's jessekelly.com is where you get it. Again, you just put in your email address. You'll see it big and bright. Just put in your email address. We're going to email it to you. It's just short. I wanted something short and easily consumable, Don. Everything is a freaking tome nowadays.
Yeah, no, we're an instant gratification society. We need it tight.
That's what I wanted. I wanted something tight. Our thoughts on where we're at as a society and culture, and where Democrats are, where Republicans are. I have stupid thoughts on there in food, but it was something I started doing, and it grew and grew and grew. It ended up being 93 pages. It probably should have been an article. And I thought, I just want to give it to people. So when I send it to you, print it, send it to friends. I don't care. Like I said, I'm not trying to make a buck on it. jessekelly.com. Put in your email address. Enjoy it.
Well, guys, check it out. Jesse, thank you very much for being here. Great having you on as always. I'm sure we'll get plenty of hate for this one, but that's okay. That's okay.
You as always,
it's
Don.
authentic.
Sorry about all the hate.
Guys, I'd like to pre-apologize for anything we may have said earlier in the show, but it is what it is. And you can get over it. If you don't like us, you don't have to follow us. But I imagine you'll be back anyway. Jesse, great having you on, man. Be well.
See you, brother.
Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure that you're liking, sharing, subscribing. Hit that notification button so you never miss one of these great episodes. Head over to Apple or Spotify if you missed the show here on Rumble, or if your friends get their podcast that way. Again, big one, like and share. Send it out there. Subscribe. Make sure your friends do. Check out our great sponsors down below and in the video description. They have the guts to support this kind of programming. Support them as well. So guys, stay strong, stay informed, stay engaged, and always stay a little bit triggered. I'll talk to you all again very soon.